In this video, we're going to be talking about pattern along a path. Now, this tool can be found under the Carvings tab and in with the Pattern Tools. We click on this tool here. We open up another set of tools. We can select on our pattern library, and we can go in and select a pattern in the pattern library. Let's go ahead and grab a leaf here. Go back to the bottom here and we'll click Add. Now we can add actually two different patterns, but let's go ahead and work with one to start with here. Now up on our input toolbar, as with any pattern, we can go ahead and input, change our size. We can set an angle. We can change our depth. And of course our height if we wish as well. Down below we can input how many of these we wish. So put 5 in there. We can say whether it should be referenced from the center of the path or from the endpoint just by selecting this here. We can set an indent to it, so I'm going to set that to 0.5. We can also set an offset to this, so set that to 0.5 as well, and that's going to push it out. Now if you manually want to move this around, you can move to where the crosshairs appear, and then you can manually go ahead and move that pattern wherever you wish. It will update the indent and offset to whatever values you set it at. Now, one other function we have here, or checkbox that we have here, is actually only applies when an offset is applied. And essentially what it's going to do is say when I put in a certain number of these, whether or not it takes the spacing from the center point of the pattern, or it sets that essentially on the tangent point of the path. So essentially whether it does it out here or down here. Obviously the spacing is going to be greater out here. So if we click that on, you can see that it spaced it a little more uniformly in a way. Depending upon what you're doing, sometimes that becomes very valuable. For example, let's say you were putting ticks around a clock face. This would be a very useful tool to have. Now, it gives you just outlines here. If you want to see actually what it looks like, you can hit preview. When you go back to edit, it will take you back to the offset. Now, if I want to add another pattern into this, I can go ahead and select number 2, and I can select another pattern, any pattern that you want. I'm actually just going to select the same one. I'm going to click Add. It's going to plop that down. And again, I'm going to go change its size to 2 inches, 1/4 inch in depth, and let's set this to say 300. Then we can go ahead and give this a bit more of an inset, because I kind of want these to kind of talk around each other. So let's give that 4. And let's go ahead and look at the preview. And since I want these to actually kind of intertwine, I'm going to set the spacing the same. Now notice these are all kind of on the same plane, but we have another tool here, and that is actually we can set our tilt. Now as soon as I put a tilt on, I get an arrow which is showing me essentially which direction I am tilting. Since we can rotate the pattern around, this can often get very difficult to tell. And this tilt is not in angles. It's basically unitless. You can see the more I put in, the larger that arrow gets. If I put in a vertical component on this, you'll see how that shifted the angle of that arrow. So that's essentially telling me which way I'm tilting this. If I go back to my first one, do the same thing with it. And we can hit preview, and now you can kind of see where the leaves are actually kind of lipping over each other. So we've kind of set an angle there. Go ahead and hit OK, and it'll go ahead and regenerate those paths, and we can kind of rotate and see how that looks. You can always go back and edit this. Just simply click on the path and go back to input that. So we can make that a little less dramatic here. And this is your pattern along a path tool.